what you might be thinking right now. My idea is way too complex. I can't possibly pitch it in 5 minutes. And that's something that I hear from entrepreneurs all the time, because everybody thinks that their idea is just that much more complicated than everybody else's. What you have to understand is pitches are always time limited, either because you have 5 or 3 or maybe just 1 minute at a pitch event, but also if that doesn't apply, you still have the limit of people's attention spans. Because people can't and they won't listen to you for 20 minutes or longer and still pay attention. So your pitch has to be very much to the point either way. What's also true about pitches is that you want to put a lot of information into them. Because startups are quite complex and there's a lot of things you want to talk about, things you've achieved, things you've done. So there is a problem, limited amount of time and a lot of content you want to put in it. So the first thing that's very clear is you can't be too slow when you're pitching because you'll run out of time in the end. But what's also true, unfortunately, is you can't just go super fast either. Because it's actually not about how fast you can speak, it's about how fast your audience can listen. Now, this is a really big problem. A lot of information, limited amount of time, and you can't go too fast. How do you solve that problem? Precision. Precision means you're saying exactly what you want to say and nothing else. This sounds a lot easier than it is. This is actually the last thing people get really good at when they're doing their pitch. How do you get to that point? The first thing you do is you make a list. This sounds very easy, and it actually is. You just write down, probably bullet points, what are the things you want to say in your pitch. Once you've done that, you can test it, you can pitch to people, you can measure the time, and you can see, okay, I'm good, I fit everything into the 5 minutes. And now, when you go up on stage, there is this important rule. And that is, if it ain't on the list, don't say it. That sounds stupid, I know, because you would say, of course, I've made a list and I'm only saying the things that are on the list. But trust me, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs running out of time in their pitches, and it's never because they made a wrong plan, it's just because they didn't stick to the plan. So when this is the story you want to tell in your pitch, don't go on detours. Don't say, oh, I could talk a little bit about this, I could talk a little bit about that. But that's what people do. And they do it because they look into their audience's eyes and they see question marks, and then they feel automatically, oh, maybe I should, they don't understand this, maybe I should do this, maybe I talk a little bit about that. Don't do that. Make a plan and stick to the plan. Also, your pitch is not a place to make your English teachers proud. Because they would be proud if you use very complicated words and very complex sentences. But that's not how you want to pitch. Because 1, it's harder for you to speak that way, and 2, it's also harder for your audience to understand very complicated sentences. A long sentence that only makes sense in the end, it's a lot harder to understand because you have to remember all of it. If you do it in shorter sentences, it's a lot easier for your audience to understand. Also, if you tweet, that's a really good skill when you talk about pitching. Because what is tweeting? You write something, and for me at least, it's always 200 characters. But I only have 140. So now I have to cut down what I said so I can get all of the same information into fewer words. And that's exactly what a pitch is. You want to be so precise that you say something in 15 words instead of 30 words. So if you have Twitter skills, put them to good use in your startup pitch. And when we talk about complexity and things that your audience might not understand, it comes down to making great comparisons. Because people understand different things. So if you don't do something that's very complicated from the technology standpoint, people that are not that into technology might not understand. But there is definitely something that you could compare what you do to so they can understand it. And that's what you should be looking for. So if you have a software as a service solution for coders, that makes it easier for them to set up a database, for example, then tell the people in the audience, this is how people do it today. They set up the database themselves. It takes them 3 days every time they do it. It costs them this much money to do it. And now they can just buy our product, and it takes them no time or just an hour to set it up, and they pay money instead of it. And that's something that everybody can understand, even without understanding the technological details of your product.